Hello guys, how are you getting on? Now the 2018 FIFA World Cup groups are very much taking shape. Some teams have been eliminated, some have already booked their place in the last 16 as Matchday 2 has come to a conclusion. Let's discuss it. So starting off with the hosts, and they continued their brilliant form in Group A thanks to a 3-1 win over Mo Salah's Egypt, hence eliminating them from the competition. I think it's fair to say Egypt just weren't good enough. Tone was very much set in their first matchday defeat to Uruguay. I think they definitely did miss Mo Salah in that game, and he wasn't 100% fit for it. Obviously, they decided, they had to play him for this game, and he got a goal. He got the penalty, but at that time in the game, it was only a consolation, and Egypt lost the game 3-1. Cheryshev and Zuba both scored in the first game, and both on the score sheet once again. But there was a stage in the second half in that game where Russia looked far more superior to Egypt, and deservedly through to the last 16 of the competition. Also through to the last 16 in that group is Uruguay. They managed a 1-0 win over Saudi Arabia. You have to say a far better defensive display from Saudi Arabia in this game compared to their first game against the host Russia. Luis Suarez got the goal. I don't think he knew too much about it at the time. It was a corner, headed down, and just kind of hit him and went in. The goalkeeper made an absolute balls of it, really. But no, Uruguay, I think they're a good side. I don't think they've reached full potential yet. I think Suarez still has a good way to go to get back to what we consider his best form. I think, again, in both games that he's played, obviously he's the key man, so we're going to discuss him more, but in both games that he's played, I think his touch has been a little bit off. His decision making hasn't been as sharp as it should be and as it usually is. But him and Cavani showed some good moments of link-up play. And yeah, Uruguay also booking their place through to the last 16. So the last match day is pretty irrelevant, to be perfectly honest. In that group, Russia play Uruguay. The only thing that is up for grabs is top spot in the group, which in theory should get you an easier tie in the last 16. In Group B, two 1-0 wins. A 1-0 win firstly early in the day for Portugal. Another Cristiano Ronaldo goal at the time had him leading the race for the World Cup Golden Boot. A very good header early on in the game. And similar to Egypt, Morocco never really looked good enough to be in the competition, and I think they've got what they deserved in the end. They showed moments of promise. They have a few decent players, but I think especially in that group, they would have struggled to get through, especially after losing 1-0 to Iran on match day 1. Spain picked up a 1-0 win over Iran, thanks to a goal from Diego Costa, his third of the competition after scoring twice, obviously against Portugal in the first day. Spain deserved winners, but there was times where I felt they could have pushed on and really put Iran to bed, and they were very nearly punished. Iran did score, but it was ruled out for offside by, guess who, VAR. To be honest, I've been we'll talk about VAR at the end, but I've been really, really shocked at how big a role VAR has had to play in the World Cup so far, and to be honest, you'd have to say for the majority of the decisions, it's been a helpful one for the game. So going into the last match day in that one, no team is fully confirmed to be going through to the next round. Portugal and Spain are both on 4 points, and Iran are on 3 points, so any of the two teams could really go through in that one. It should be quite interesting, actually. In Group C then, Denmark drew 1-1 with Australia. And this group is still quite open as well. France did beat Peru later on in the day, thanks to a goal from Kylian Mbappe. But yeah, the door is very much open now. Another Mile Jedinak penalty after a brilliant goal by Christian Eriksen had given Denmark the lead, saving a point for Australia and keeping their hopes alive. Now this group should be quite interesting because France are playing Denmark in the last game of the group, and Australia are obviously playing Peru, who have already been eliminated. So basically, Denmark need a point against France, which they could easily get. Don't get me wrong, they could easily get, but you'd imagine France are going to win. You don't know how France are going to play it. They could play a weakened side, this and that, you know yourself. But yeah, if Denmark don't manage to get anything from that game, it leaves the door open, and if Australia were to beat Peru, Australia will progress. And to be honest, I've liked the look of the Australians at times. They've looked very dogged, and I think they were unlucky not to get anything out of the game against the French in their first match day. But, you know, again, it all comes down to how the French decide to play it, and if Denmark are up to the challenge against France on the day. Moving on to the next group then, Group D. Argentina losing 3-0 to Croatia. Like, fucking shocking stuff. It really was hard viewing for any neutrals, really. A lot of people want to see Argentina do well, obviously, for Messi. I don't agree with this bullshit that he needs to succeed at international level in order to kind of cement his status as the GOAT, as they're calling it. But I think he already has succeeded at international level. He hasn't won a trophy, but the amount of goals he scored, and he single-handedly has brought Argentina to the World Cup, and you know they obviously wouldn't be there without him. Even though they have quality players going forward, they're still very shaky defensively, and Willy Caballero cost them the first goal. I don't even know what he was trying to do here, folks. Like, I can't even explain. Shocking stuff. Then Luka Modric pulls an absolute screamer out of the hat into the top corner. That could be one for the goal recreation series. He smashed it in to make it 2-0, and Rakitic rolled in the third late on to make it 3. And Argentina looked at that stage down and out, but then the result the next day really did help them. Nigeria beating Iceland by 2-0 thanks to a double from Ahmed Musa. Now, which does mean that, you know, they play Nigeria in the last game, Argentina, and if they win that, and if Croatia beat Iceland, which they're very much fancy to do despite already being through Croatia, Argentina will somehow be through to the next round. They'd be on 4 points. But after watching Nigeria against Iceland, this is going to be no easy game for Argentina, and they're going to have to be at their very, very best. And their very, very best is what, relying on Messi to deliver the goods, and they're going to have to rely on him to do it again. But yeah, pressure is very much on, and that group should have a very exciting conclusion. That group was dubbed the group of death at the start, and it's very much lived up to its expectation. Fair play to Croatia for making it through to the last 16 with a game to spare. Everyone would be expecting Argentina to be the team to be doing that, but Croatia absolutely blew them out of the water the other night, so fair play to them. Brazil picked up a 2-0 win over Costa Rica. I thought I was convinced with them in the first game, but again, failure to put teams away, and we'll get on to that with England later on in their game. But Brazil didn't manage to put Costa Rica away for a while, and it wasn't until I think it was the 91st minute where Felipe Coutinho put them 1-0 up, and then obviously Costa Rica just kind of fell to bits from there, and Neymar made it 2-0, and Brazil are now in a very, very good position to qualify. As are Switzerland. Switzerland have put themselves back in the mix. They're also on 4 points now after their first day draw against Brazil. They beat Serbia by 2-1 thanks to a brilliant goal by Granit Xhaka and a lovely individual effort by Xherdan Shaqiri later on as well. After Alexander Mitrovic with a fantastic header had given Serbia the lead. I think it was quite naive defensively as far as Serbia are concerned. You know, it was 1-1, it was late in the day, and Switzerland needed the 3 points more than Serbia did, because Serbia had obviously beaten Costa Rica, and they just threw so many men forward, and then the centre-back is caught too far away from Shaqiri, then tries to play him offside. Shaqiri runs in and slots home the winner late in the day. I think it was stupid from Serbia, really, and they paid the price for it. That group should have an interesting end to it. Brazil and Switzerland are both on 4 points, knowing that a win in their final game would help them progress. Brazil are obviously still to play Serbia, so that is a tough one for Serbia. They're going to have to dig in very deep, and they need to get the win. And if they do, and Switzerland beat Costa Rica, Brazil will be out. But I can't see it happening, to be perfectly honest. I think Brazil will just have too much in the tank and will claim the win on that one. Germany's group then, and they picked up a much, much needed win against Sweden thanks to an amazing last minute free kick from Toni Kroos. Late in the day, curls it in, top corner, and the day had started off brutally for them, it's fair to say. A brilliant chip from Ola Toivonen had given the Swedish the lead, and it stayed that way until half time. Marco Reus then came back right at the start of the second half and made it 1-1. And then obviously that last minute winner from Toni Kroos, lifting the whole nation. I think I heard before the game that the last 3 champions of the World Cup have been eliminated in the group stage of the following tournament. That's mad if you think about it. Germany giving themselves a far better chance of progressing in that group. Another team that gave themselves a very good chance of progressing in that group is Mexico. After they beat Germany on match day 1 thanks to a Chucky Lozano goal, they followed it up with a 2-1 victory over South Korea. Goals from a penalty from Carlos Vela and Javier Hernandez in the second half put them in a very good position, and a wonderful strike by Heung-min Son pulled one back late in the day for Korea, but it proved to just be a consolation. So basically, this is the permutations for Group F. Then, if they avoid defeat against Sweden, Mexico are definitely through after 2 victories. The Swedes and Germans are in a dead heat on 3 points, so every goal and even card will be vital. So obviously, that's the crack in England's group as well, is that if England were to draw with Belgium in the final game, we'll go down to fair play, which is quite amazing. England will go through as things stand on fair play, but this could be the case in Group F as well. Korea actually aren't eliminated yet. They would need to beat Germany and hope Sweden lose and win a tiebreaker. So things are fairly tight there. I actually thought Korea were gone, to be honest with you, but apparently not. Moving on to the next group then, and Belgium beating Tunisia by 5-2, eliminating Tunisia. A double for Eden Hazard and a double for Romelu Lukaku, along with substitute Michy Batshuayi also getting on the score sheet. They will be disappointed with conceding the 2 goals, because after England's result, things are level now actually with the goal difference. But you know, it could have been better for them. They didn't need to concede them 2 goals. And obviously England, fair play to them. They're also through after a thumping 6-1 victory over Panama, and I have to say I was very, very impressed with England's performance. I was in the first 10 minutes of their win over Tunisia, but obviously they didn't put them to bed. They put Panama to bed here very early on, and I think after the second or third goal, you could probably say it was lights out. Then 5-0 at half time, thanks to a brace of penalties from Harry Kane. Jesse Lingard was also on the score sheet, and a brace from John Stones, and 6-1 is how it finished. Incredible stuff. Harry Kane completing his hat-trick in the second half with a goal that he didn't know much about, but a shot from Loftus-Cheek kind of clipped off his heel and flew into the corner. Very unfortunate for the Panamanians, but look, England through, and Harry Kane will only be too happy to claim the match ball. It will be interesting to see how England get on against teams that are stronger, because obviously you can't say Tunisia and Panama are the strongest of teams, but in fairness to England, you know, they showed a ruthlessness that the England team probably hasn't showed in the last number of years, and put Panama to bed early on. And I've been very impressed with them. Again, it'll be interesting to see they're coming up against a strong Belgian side now on Thursday, so it'll be interesting to see if they can, you know, do the business against stronger teams, and if they'll be able to cope defensively will also be key. And obviously that group is very tight at the top. Obviously Panama and Tunisia are both gone, but the race for the top spot is quite heated at the minute. You know, as I said, identical records in terms of points and goal difference and all that kind of crack, and goals scored. So it's literally going to come down to, if it's a draw, it'll come down to the fair play rules. So that should be interesting. And as things stand, England actually have less yellow cards than Belgium, so they're currently leading. Moving on to the final group then, and Japan and Senegal played out a very entertaining 2-2 draw to share the points at the top of that group. But it was a very, very entertaining game. Two teams that I enjoyed watching playing on match day 1 were Senegal and Japan, and they played out a very entertaining game. I think neither team wanted to be the team that was like sitting back and inviting the pressure, and that was only great viewing for the neutrals. And yeah, I think a point apiece was probably the fair result in the end. And Colombia then went on to capitalise on both Japan and Senegal dropping points by thrashing Poland 3-0, thanks to goals from Yerry Mina of Barcelona, Radamel Falcao and Juan Cuadrado. Again, very impressed with Colombia. They weren't great in the first game, obviously, against Japan, but again, they had to play the majority of the game with 10 men after Carlos Sanchez's dismissal. But I was impressed with them. They played good, free-flowing football, and yeah, it was good to watch. To round the video off now, I want to have a little chat about VAR. It's played a huge role at the World Cup so far, and I would say it has been good, to be honest, for the majority of it. Obviously, the first time it was used was to award Antoine Griezmann a penalty in France's 2-1 win over Australia on Matchday 1. Referee didn't give it. Obviously, he got the call from the boys in Moscow and was like, yeah, you need to look at this. And the ref overturned his decision and gave the penalty. Similarly, in Brazil's 2-0 win over Costa Rica, Neymar was taken down in the box and the referee gave the penalty, but on closer inspection, Neymar had actually, I won't say dived, but it wasn't a penalty. I don't think he was fouled. There was a little hand on him, but I don't think enough to send him, flying as he did. There was another VAR decision. Mo Salah was fouled what the referee thought on the edge of the box, but on closer inspection, thanks to VAR, he gave the penalty as the foul was indeed in the penalty spot and Salah scored it. So there's decisions like that that could really change a game and for the greater good. But there has been one or two negative parts of it. I think if there's a decision that's any way dodgy at all, I think the referee needs to look at it. But there's been times where the referee has opted not to look at it because he's been so sure that, it's not been a penalty. And it can't be a case where the fellas from Moscow need to, they alert him. He has to think, well, I'm not sure about that, and go back and look at it himself. And then the fellas from Moscow will advise him. But obviously in England's 2-1 win over Tunisia, there was a few instances where they could have had a penalty where the Tunisians were, taking them down in the box, and there was a few awful challenges in the box from corners, and that Harry Kane on one occasion was nearly rugby tackled to the ground, and the referee opted not to even ask for VAR. I did a video a couple of months ago when Chelsea played Norwich in the FA Cup this season, and obviously Chelsea won it in the end, but I think we could have had a penalty in extra time when Willian was fouled in the box by a Norwich City player, and the referee didn't even ask for VAR. And I think it's one of those things that if it's any way dodgy at all, the referee surely has to look at it. But obviously it's still learning, and I think it does need a big competition like the World Cup to maybe try it out and see what it's like on the big stage. So that is where I'm going to wrap up this video, lads. Let me know what you think of VAR. Is it improving the game? Is it ruining it? Or what do you think of the time span and the weight that the audience has to kind of know what's happening? Also, let me know what you've thought of Matchday 2 in the comments section below. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please do smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new with notifications on. Trying to hit 100 subscribers, so any support again would be greatly appreciated. And I will catch you later.
Hands up for your colors.